Hello and welcome everybody to week 25 of HeroesHype Live. This week we're talking all things Open Division Cup number 4 for Europe and NA. And as always, I have my co-host Dunk to my left. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Were you excited about those games? Were they pretty hyped this week?
It's HeroesHype on stream watching the HGC Open. Of course they're filled with hype.
Of course. I mean, it's obvious, right? Like, there's no reason not to be. So our special guest this week is none other than Troy 1010, who many of you guys know. How you doing, bud?
Hey there, I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I'm really. We've interviewed you before in HeroesHype Cups in the past, and it's always been fun to have you on to hear about the thought process behind your play style and your team. And I'm excited to see what you think about the Open Division. It's gonna be I think a pretty good time. So without further ado, we'll hop right into it and discuss Europe. So
EU number 1.
This week we had a rematch of a semifinal last week, Singularity versus Terra's Rodzina, and once again Rodzina came out with the 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you surprised at all by that? Or do you think that Terras is just like the supreme team right now? Have they overtaken Singularity for that number 1 spot?
I think that Terras is playing so well, and we talked a little bit about this. I think Singularity is still playing really well. Maybe Terras is the Dignitas, as Dignitas as to Fnatic, Terras is the team Singularity.
Mm-hmm.
In their first week, they lost to them 1-2, still close games.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then, anytime they've come against them, it's been a 0-2 smash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a record of 5 wins to their 6 losses. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
and to note
pretty good.
that the one series that they did lose was in the first round, so no one was warmed up or anything.
Yep.
There was just everyone's going in cold. And with these, Terras has been winning pretty handily, honestly. Like, they haven't been necessarily close. They've been good games, to be honest, but they haven't been nail-biters. On the other side, we had Clausen's Army once again make the semifinal. They made it once again from week 3, and they played Epunks, and Epunks won 2-1. Now, Epunks once again ran a warrior-less comp, and I say that with Dahaka being in there, but they don't have a main warrior. And that won game 3. And I always love seeing that comp. I think it's really fun to watch as a viewer, and I think it's hard for the enemy team to really figure out what exactly they're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Dunk? What do you think?
Yeah, no. It's interesting to say the least. I want to say, I'm trying to remember, we saw it last week too. I believe we saw Abathur and Dahaka. And I think it's interesting. I think the way that it's kind of similar to the Murky Abathur we saw at BlizzCon by Cloud9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, that team playing it worked. It's not something I think teams should emulate.
Yeah, I think it's one of those strategies that can be pulled out if you need a game. It's not necessarily a cheese strategy because it's hard to pull off, whereas a cheese strategy is usually easier. But like if you go up against an HGC team or maybe even Terras or Singularity, it's not going to work.
Exactly. And it shows because they keep losing in the next set when they go against either Singularity or Rodzina.
Yeah.
And that 0-2, it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Wait, so what was the comp exactly? It was Dahaka and...
It was Dahaka, Abathur. I don't remember exactly. I think it was Greymane again. And Rhaegar. I don't remember who their 5th was this time. But last week they had Genji. It was on Cursed Hollow that time. This time it was on... No, it was Falstad. I remember. Because Falstad soloed the core with a hat. And that was on Infernal Shrines this time. So I think it worked. Like, it's harder to do it on that map, especially because it's a smaller map. You can't really. They had technically 3 globals with Abathur, but
true.
It's harder to run that type of composition on a smaller map because it's easier for the other team to react to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think E-Punk's played it extremely well, and I want to see it more. I want to see how teams adapt to it, and I want to see if they can, if they have to make any changes. But on the other side of that game was Clausen's Army. So as I said, week 3 they were also in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Week 4. Wait, I'm sorry.
Week 4 they lost, and
week 2 they made the semifinals. This was week 4, and week 3 they made it. I don't think they even made it to the round of 8.
Yeah, they made it to the round of 16, I believe, and got knocked out.
The big thing to note about that is last week they didn't have Clausen of Clausen's Army, which is a little odd. But 2 weeks ago and this week they had him, and each time they made the semifinals. So I'm starting to think that it's pretty important to have your namesake on the team, because I think he might be the shot caller. Maybe that's what it was, or maybe the drafting. I'm not 100% sure, but I think whatever it is, he's important to the team and their success. So looking at the finals. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's like I told you on chat. It's like an army that lost its head. Or a snake that lost its head. It's just flapping around like, oh, you know it, we can know it, and then nothing happened.
maybe it'd be like Gaul without Cho. Almost.
It's almost like trait value without Stray.
Oh,
or Troy.
That's BM.
How about we go with Troy? He's right here. Dang.
Wow, I didn't realize I'd get flamed if I came on.
So moving on, how did you feel about the finals? The Terras Rotina 2-0ing E-Punks once again.
I thought it was pretty. While I am trying to fix some production things, I thought it was pretty one-sided, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think E-Punk struggles, to put it poorly, because we elated Team Nightcare last week in NA as like the gatekeeper of their region.
Mm-hmm.
E-Punk's kind of feels like that for their region, and they're like that forever 4th place team. Granted, obviously they made it 2nd this week, which is awesome, good for them. I think they really struggle when they go against these teams that are like consistently up there and winning the games and or winning the tournaments. I don't think they had a single good performance against any of our top 3 teams in the region.
Okay. I think I fixed everything. Sorry about that. Your camera was messed up, and you told me, so I'm trying to fix it live production, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I think Terra has just proved once again that they're the powerhouse of EU, and looking forward, I'm expecting them to be grabbing that number one spot going into the Crucible. They were actually Polska Pamięta, I think is how you said the name. Last split, they're the Russian team that was in the Crucible last year. So yeah, they're still driving, they're still going forward, and I want them to do well. I want. There's 6 teams that I know can do well in EU right now.
It's really important, and I have the standings right in front of me. Looking at the points, and we're coming into the 5th week, so we got another, I believe 4 more weeks after this. E-Punks is a full win and a half behind the number 1 team, but they're only 45 points away from 2nd place, which means it's only 1 win a week. So the top 5 are actually pretty close to each other. The 2 to 5 spots are pretty close to each other. It's that number 1 spot that everyone's trying to climb up above. Singularity definitely put themselves up and above by starting out strong. So we got a good set of games coming in the next couple of weeks. See if these teams can upset the throne.
Okay, I did figure out the camera issue, so we should be good now. But yeah, when you look at the standings, I think all of those top 5 are very competitive with each other. They can take games off of each other. It's just who's the closest, who's going to edge them out, who's going to make the fewest amount of mistakes.
Yeah,
and I'm on.
And I think honestly, I don't think we see Manticore hold their number 2 spot for much longer. The last 2 weeks have shown that these teams are upsetting them. Clausen's beating him in the semis last week. E-Punk's beating him this week. And I'm trying to find Europe number 2 because I believe they got second place in the second week. Yeah, they did get second place, and they have yet to win it. They have to win a round. So I'm wondering if maybe they're having some issues and dipping down.
Yeah.
So
one thing I want to mention, Valhalla, who was, as we've talked about, is constantly up there. They didn't make it to the semis this week. They only made it to the quarterfinals. And Valhalla, who is number 4 going into this week, was also knocked out very early in the round of 32, actually, or round of 16. And it was Clausen's Army that knocked both of them out. So I think maybe there's like a Clausen's like stepping on their hands on the ladder. You know what I mean? And Valhalla and Manticore are like falling down. One team that I was a little surprised to see get knocked out was, at least so early, was Team Go. I know that you love them, Dunk. But they got knocked out by E-Punks 2-1. So it was a close series. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I don't think that game was actually streamed. Maybe they were and I just missed it. It was probably in one of the language streams that I didn't have up. But I want to go watch those games because I think that would be one of the more contested series in the whole tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, like you can see it, like 2-1 Team Go, and then they 2-1 Clausen's Army. And I know we got Moogie Lowell in chat, and I'm wondering if maybe like they were really tense from those series, and maybe that was a factor in the last 2 sets. Because I don't know, I wasn't particularly impressed in the finals, so. But I would put them in my top 4 for the season. I do think they're definitely going to the Crucible. Like E-Punks are definitely going.
All right. So with that, do you have a top 4 that are competing for the Crucible?
If I'm going to go by standings, I have to give Singularity the number 1 spot just because they're lead. But I'm actually, because of Teraz Rodzina's performance this last few weeks, I'm going to give it to Teraz. Singularity my number 2. I'm going to give E-Punks the number 3 spot, and I'm going to give Team Go my number 4 spot. I think Clausen's Army is probably going to be my number 5, and from there it's just a real toss-up the next 3.
Now is that your head or is that your heart that's speaking?
That's my head.
Now, how about your heart?
Being convinced by my heart.
Okay, we'll go with that compromise. I think for me, I'm gonna go. I think Teraz is number 1 right now, even over Singularity. Singularity is number 2. E-Punks is a very close number 3. As Moogie was saying, he corrected me. They beat Singularity last week. I could have sworn that when did Teraz? Maybe it was 2 weeks ago that Teraz beat Singularity. Or no, Singularity won week 2. I'll have to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know their history has been edging towards Teraz, and then E-Punks is very, very, very close, like right there.
Yep.
And then right behind them, I think Team Go.
Yep.
Dunk getting Twitter alerts from Hostile. Oh boy.
That's probably honestly what it was. I was like, oh, my phone's not muted. And I did just confirm it. It was Teraz beating Singularity this weekend last, and then Singularity winning before. So E-Punk's wrong in chat. You have not beaten Singularity yet.
Ooh, called out. Jeez.
But they did beat Manticore, though, in a 2-1. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from how well E-Punks has been playing.
Yeah, and I gave them my number 3 spot. So,
yeah. So
I put them where they belong.
With that, let's move on to NA, and we can talk with Troy. Troy knows a little bit more about this stuff than he does Europe to be completely fair. He does play in that region. So let's rewind a little bit, and go to last week. Last week, we saw a team that looked interesting, to say the least, in the bracket, named Trait Value. And there were some names that we recognized from the amateur division, like Troy and Seryu, and we're like, they were in All My Science. That team was pretty good. And we noticed, like, that team split into 3 different teams. Like, Dark and Battery went one way, you and Seryu went another, and then Hot chose somewhere else. But the big shocker, at least for me, was you had Srey on your team. Now, I'd like to have you talk about a little bit how that team formed and what has been the team's experience so far in the Open Division, and how are you guys getting along, basically? Like, what's the team atmosphere like?
Yeah, well, just to give you the whole scope, like, yeah, when OMS split apart, everyone, had about a couple days where you're like, oh snap, like what's going on next, right? But we started trying out, Sari and I were, and Katie, honestly, our manager has been just the best in all of this. But we knew that we needed to fill the slots that were empty, so we started trying people out, and we knew that the biggest problem with like figuring out who to have on the team was just the fact that the flex was so gigantically, could be any hero. It could be like Genji, could be second healer, could be second tank. Like the flex role is like such a flex that it's like, who can play every single hero? Like we don't really know, So that was going to be the hardest slot to fill. And as soon as we found Alex, we were like, wow, this guy can do literally any hero that we put him on. Like this is amazing. Like every time we're like, hey, can you play this hero? He's like, yeah, I can do it, and then he just does it like very well. So yeah, after we had that, we felt much more comfortable, because the other 2 slots we had to fill were like very concrete, what we wanted. So it was a little easier after that.
A little bit easier, yeah, for sure. I was really impressed with your guys' play last week, especially with just how... Oh, I did it again. Hold on. Sorry. With just how aggressive your shot calling and play seemed to be compared to when you were on OMS. Like, we always saw Srey just in there, just walking to wherever he wanted, usually on Muradin, and you guys just followed him, and it worked so well. Now, is he shot calling for you guys?
Well, yeah, it's interesting, when the team split up and we were like, who's shot calling now? When we didn't have Srey, like I picked up shot calling and I was doing it. And then when Srey came in, it was like, both of us were doing it at the beginning, and then like we're trying like, just him doing it, and we're trying, we're trying to figure out like what works, But like during the open, like, he was mainly doing it, and like, I mean, pretty much because we drafted a super aggressive comp every single time, it was pretty obvious. It was like, okay, like if they're gonna rotate here, like just don't let them rotate, and then you'd like see them rotate, and you're like, all right, like this, everyone knows, everyone's, there's a mind sync here. Everyone knows what's going on. So yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah. So you guys ended up getting second last week. And one of the best plays of all of last week was that mid keep defense on Volskaya with Alex, who outplayed all of my expectations of him. I know I've seen him on the ladder a little bit, but Alex was insane on Junkrat, to be completely honest. And that Riptire, Kala got it right. Junkrat is a god. I'm a little sad that Junkrat was not available this week.
I know. Dude, we were afraid he wasn't going to be available next week, but then at today's patch, they fixed him. We're like, thank God, dude. Like, at least, we got, obviously, like teams can ban Junkrat against us, but like we have some other picks up our sleeves as well. So as long as we have like a couple of them, they can't ban all of them out, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that's what we're hoping for.
Well, I'm looking forward to you guys' play to continue. Hopefully, we'll see you on stream next week. I really want to try and follow you guys. So moving on to this week, we had there we go. A couple surprises actually. With oh god, I lost it. Okay, there we go. The big one being Team Nightcare, which is everyone's favorite Glogan. His team took out SMV, the number 1 seed, 2-1. Now, those games weren't streamed, but I heard from various sources that, holy crap, those games were awesome.
Yeah, I think that is by far the most surprising thing of all the games from NA this week. We just didn't think that Nightcare would take down the Titans that are SMV, and I think for them it was such a big surprise, and we have some drama to talk about later. But that is what needs to happen for the standings to be shaken up.
Yeah.
The number 1 seed losing in the round of 16 or the round of 8, sorry. That freed up so many more points for so many different teams, and we saw 3 new faces in the semifinal.
3 new teams in the semifinals this week, which is pretty fantastic, and we'll go through each team. And I think it's great to see new teams, points being distributed differently now, so we have a much more competitive NA scene than last week.
Yep.
Just on points alone. So, going to the first semifinal with Team Nightcare, it was against EID, who got protected, by the way, to get there. And EID is Nesper, Battery, Dark Chimera, Glogan, and I'm completely forgetting the 5th.
No. EID is Zanehyde and Mist. They picked up Mist this week.
Zanehyde, that's who, and Mist. Yep, not Glogan. I don't know why I'm on a Glogan hype train right now. I'm sorry, I'm just out of it.
But yeah, and everybody else, man.
We're still waiting for the guest, though. By the way,
still waiting.
EID picked up Mist this week, and I think impressed a lot of people. They looked a lot better, a lot cleaner. I think was the main thing. I even got to see Nesper on Illidan this week, which is pretty Dan's game. If anyone doesn't know, the meme is Nesper Dan's game whenever he's playing. So I was the first game EID took pretty handily, I think, and then going into game 2, Nightcare kind of shot back at them, and then game 3 was super intense on towers.
Yep.
Although every game on towers has been intense recently, and I love it. It came down to like the very, very end.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how always towers games are going to go. They're always so dramatic.
Yeah.
Because any bad play can turn into the points just swinging very quickly. And I think Team Nightcare did an awesome thing where they lost that first game and just swung it back in their favor, and that's hard to do, especially against a good team like EID.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But I remember game 1, Taliant didn't look very good on ETC. He got kind of bullied, basically. Second game, he kind of just did what he wanted, like the complete opposite. And then the third game, he was almost like the too hot, too cold, just right. It was like a perfect medium.
Well, I think a huge part of it is like how threatening your whole team is. Like, if the enemy is like gonna face check an ETC in a push, and you have the potential to die from an ETC slide, like you're not gonna face check the bush. But like if you're looking at the enemy team and they like don't have that potential, or like the people that would be doing that are like in another lane, like you have to play completely differently as ETC. Like it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
And
it's not the same playstyle at all.
If I remember correctly, I think EID had. I know they had Blaze. I think batteries on Blaze game 1, and I think it was Tyrael was the other one. So they basically had 2 tanks, and ETC could step up with a Tyrael main tank, but in the Blaze stun, he was getting just completely bodied.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely, you have to play a different way as an ETC, especially depending on what other tanks are in the game, I think.
Troy, how do you feel about that pseudo Sank with the sanctification, like the bunker and Sank on top of each other? How do you feel about that combo? Because we're seeing a lot more of it, and I think it's really creative. It's really defense oriented. I feel like a lot of times it lacks a lot of offensive power, though.
Like, if the enemy team can just walk out with a Lucio, like that's not gonna work out, But like, if you're standing on point, or like, there's a boss or a cap to take, like that could work out. Or if the enemies just like don't have any disengage, but like the fact that no, like good teams should be able to play around that. Like, you see that. You see those ults go down, you disengage, and then you re-engage, That's why I really like displacement, honestly, is because, like, the engages happen so far towards you that, like, disengaging afterwards is so easy, right? So, like, if you're playing a dive comp where, like, you have, like, Arthas Tyrael and you're just, like, going in on the enemies, then they pop the Saints and Bunker, it's like, now there's an issue because your turrets are way over there, right? But like, if you're gonna just displace the enemies towards you, and then like they use those ultimates, like you didn't walk into them, like they came into you, so like that's no big deal,
Yeah.
So I think that like it's going to be good against some teams, but like another time, if the enemies have the right tools, like that's not going to be effective at all. It's the same as like Tyrael Uther, like Tyrael can sanct, Uther can use his divine shield as well, but like at some point, like if the enemies can just walk away, then and they can abuse that, like then those ults are meaningless.
It's kind of like an Odin too. Like if the enemy team Odins, or like an Alex Dragon, if you're able to just walk away and then re-engage when those are gone,
it's such a huge tool. Just it was used, it pushed them back, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, cool. Good to know.
Yeah. So we'll move on now to the other semifinal, which was XD, the only returning member of the semifinal squad, and then HeroesHype, and I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is the University of Laval, I think, their dorm team. And I think right now they were ranked number 2 in the power rankings for dorm.
That is correct. Okay. They total points this week made them the number 2.
Now they came through beating NA LOL, who's a pretty strong team, and then they took out Evil Medieval, who happens to be the number 1 team in that dorm power rankings.
That is such a good name.
Team. Yeah, I love that name. It's great.
Dude, we were so jealous. We were thinking of a new team name. We were like, oh man, like Evil Medieval, like that's clearly the best one. Like,
yeah, I mean it's obvious. Yeah. So Rouge won that series 2-1. That was possibly my favorite series of the night, I think, at least a Monday night. And then they ended up losing to XD 2-0. However, the second game, one of their teammates had a power outage, and they just had to put a bot for like the second half of game 2, which is just unfortunate. But that's something that out of our control, which sucks. But game 1 was decently competitive, I think, and they ended up finishing 4th because they had to forfeit the 3rd place match. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing their play to continue, both in the open and in dorm. I'm excited to see where they will be in the coming weeks. So.
Yeah, and the dorm teams are taking this pretty seriously, because this is this tournament is some of their best scrim practice, because you never know which team you're going to get, and you can get a lot of games in pretty quickly especially if you do well.
Yeah.
So like like they beat Thought Patrol, they beat NA LOL, they beat Evil Medieval, and then they also got to play XD. Those 3 to 4 of those teams are like some of the top teams of the region. So um, that's like it's very valuable practice time for them. And I know for sure that they were super hyped to beat Evil Medieval when we are doing the dorms, the power rankings, and
Yeah.
it made a big difference. It did make a big difference on when they're standing. Um, and I think they played well-ish against XD. I think they had their moments of what I would call clarity, but I think XD definitely kind of rolled over them. Granted, I'm not going to use the second game as a definition for anything because playing with a bot is troll on its own.
Yeah.
But I definitely think XD handled them as well as they should.
Yep. Now, moving into the finals, we had Nightcare against XD, and XD took game 1 on Volskaya pretty handily. Game 2, Nightcare ran a double support, which they had the past day as well, and that was LZ on Kerosene, and his Kerosene was scary, to say the least. He was just diving the back line, just creating havoc, basically. Once you get to 16, Kerosene's dive potential and burst is crazy. So they won that one pretty well, honestly. They had Hanzo and Kerosene, so the race, and then Malthael. Logan's Malthael's actually turned it into one of his best traits, or one of his best weapons, I guess we'll say. That and Dahaka, I think, are his 2 best heroes right now.
You know, I do find that very interesting that both XD and SMV, like, just are, taking that Volskaya, It's very interesting to me because it just shows that they feel like they're more adaptive because, Volskaya is new to everyone. Like, it's not just new to, Team Nightcare, other teams. Like, Volskaya is new to everyone, and the fact that, like, XD and SMV are picking those up just means that they believe that they can adapt faster,
Yeah.
I think, like, being adaptive and, like, knowing, like, knowing that you should play completely differently because this is a different map, this is a different team comp. Like, I think that's so valuable to have.
Yeah, and I love seeing teams like that create a new meta on those types of maps, basically, because, as you said, it's new to everyone. Everyone's learning the map. Everyone's learning how it works. What's the best strategy? And the teams that are picking it up the fastest are obviously going to dominate that, and that's what we're seeing is those teams picking up the best strategy that they can get, and it's proving to be better than anyone else, and winning. And it's almost like, I wouldn't say it's a free win for them right now, but they're definitely a step ahead of everyone else.
And the Open is moving a little quicker on patches, correct? They're not following the same patches that HGC are being played on?
Not quite, no.
Not quite, yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be a big deal, and I do think it's important because this is the road to be a professional player. How well you adapt and how well you keep up with the meta, it makes a big difference on how seriously the teams will play against those really good teams that they're going to face, in the Crucible and moving forward. So if they're not able to get it down now, they're sure not going to do it in the pro scene when the patch changes every 3 weeks and you can only practice against those set teams. So you just really need to get as much good practice as you can because you have to practice on the tournament realm half the time. So
yeah. So speaking of adapting and learning on the fly, Troy, this week we saw the introduction of Maiev. Now, what we saw on stream was her largely being banned out. So with the amount of experience that your team has had with her in scrims or in a tournament setting, and what we saw in Europe and North America as well, the little that we did, how strong do you see her? Where do you think she sits? And do you think that the changes that came in today will affect how often she's played?
Yeah, I mean, just her Hero League win rate is off the charts, and, like, during a lot of team fights, when you're fighting a Maeve, like, you'll kill somebody that's not Maeve, and then you'll, like, you can't pressure in as 5 like you normally would. Like normally, like you get a kill and then you're like, all right, like we're pretty secure to like move into the enemies and they will back up. But like if the enemy team's got a Maeve, like that's not necessarily the case. If you all group up and try to move into them and stack as 5, like you could get deleted very quickly. So I will say that Maeve, like, it seems like she's so strong in like a 4v5 scenario. Like I know that sounds awkward, but like when you're 4v5, like Maeve really shines, which I think is a little silly, you know, but yeah, I don't know. As far as like you know, we've had her in scrims, you know, like it's just so interesting to us because like we don't want to ban Maeve because we want to like see how to play against her and like see, you know, what counters she has, you know. So like we
Yeah.
won't ban it when they have first pick, but then whenever we have first pick, they like they ban it, you know. So we never really get to play it that much. And yeah, you know, a couple times we'll be like, hey, like can we play Maeve, you know? But like even now, you know, now that she's nerfed, like I'm still not sure if she's first pick, you know. But it is really nice to have Maeve there because, again, like, just, you know, our team really shines when we have some, you know, displacement hero. And, hey, what, Maeve's another one there, you know? So, like, there's, again, like, there's another hero that, like, you have to ban away from us. And it's just, it's really nice having her here. Like, it's like, you know, it was a sigh of relief when she was played. But, yeah, I'm not sure if she's first pick, you know, because there are other options, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how much teams value her. When they do ban, it brings in Genji and Hanzo, which were a couple weeks ago staple 1-2s in bans. So it's like it's nice to see one hero affect how drafting works, basically. You know.
Yeah, I will say with like the Hanzo changes, like taking double support with Hanzo now feels like there's like a tipping point where like just Hanzo is just not doing enough, you know, like
Yeah.
you can't just have him solo damage anymore. Like he's got to be like with another damage. It feels like so.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I will say that about the new Hanzo.
All right, so I wanna close out NA. Dunk, give me your top 4, just like we did for EU.
Top 4.
Actually, sorry.
Actually, we do need to talk about our drama first.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that.
Okay.
So today, information broke on Twitter that SMV has dropped Prismat and Iacona and picked up Talking Trees
and Homicidal
from XD. Going with that, and we don't know what's going to happen with XD. Hopefully they gain 2 more members and continue to compete, because I think they were arguably the strongest team.
Yep.
And we'll see how much the changes affect them if they do continue.
And it's important to note, XD is currently #1 ranked on the point board.
Yep.
As long as 3 of their players stay together, they will maintain those points. I think it'd be in their best interest to find 2 really good players and keep playing it out.
Yep.
There's still a few weeks left, or another month or 2. It's at their best interest to keep playing, and I think there is more than enough talent in this region that they can find players.
Yep. And as you said, there's several weeks left. They don't necessarily have to win.
Yep.
Any cups to, I think basically at this point they have secured their spot in top 8.
Yep.
At least. So pick up people that you think will do well. Gain synergy with them through practice over the next couple weeks. Play in the tournaments just to get that experience as a team together and see what happens. So
exactly.
with that, Dunk, who are your top 4?
I'm gonna have to give the #1 spot to SMV for the moment. I'm not gonna count XD until I see a team. If they continue, I will give them the 4th place spot. Otherwise, I'm gonna fill out. I'm gonna give Team Nightcare the #2 spot this time. I think Trait Value has earned the #3 spot, so long as they keep at it. I don't think that that team is gonna let the other teams bully them like they have last week. Protected by the way is not there on points. Probably gonna be my number 5 spot. And sorry, no. EID is gonna go number 5. Protected by the way will take number 6.
Okay.
And the last 2 are gonna be a toss up.
So Troy, how about you? What is your top 4 currently in NA? And if your team is not there, where do you see your team? And do you think that you can break into that top 4?
My team's clearly number 1, but
obviously.
beyond that, yeah, I haven't even seen the new XD or SMB play, but man, Icona and Prism, like I've seen them make so many good plays, It must be just an issue with well, I don't actually. Never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. But no, like certainly when you're looking at SMB's like lineup, you're like, okay, like all of those 5 people, like they're not gonna like miss an ability, like as soon, they're not gonna like use an ability prematurely. Like I'm not gonna be able to abuse any of the mistakes that they make, so I'm gonna have to like beat them by like, some sort of like
magic,
actual macro player, like actually like yeah, you know what? That's actually a huge difference between like Hero League and the Open. I've noticed is that like in Hero League, it does not matter if your team comp can or cannot do something. Like you'll be able to do it simply because the enemies like make a mistake that you abuse. But like in competitive play, like these enemies are not making mistakes, so you're gonna win by like outthinking them like across the entire map, because like you can just assume that they're not gonna make any mistakes, and then what do you do based on that? Like there's a whole extra thing to figure out. So yeah, you'll certainly when you're fighting SMB, you'll have to find a way around. They're not gonna make too many mistakes for you to abuse. And then as far as XD goes, like if they pick up 2 more members, like that's going to be, I mean, the 3 that they have right now are, are pretty nice. So
yeah,
it would
and we happen.
What's that?
Yeah, we happen to know that Prismat and Icona are available. So I mean, are we just going to do the 2 for 2 swap? Like,
that's pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, we were actually scrimming against ODI recently, and we actually like it was funny because like they had the coordination, like I was like they are coordinated, I'll say that much, which I think is pretty cool. Like if you watch them play, like they have a plan with what they're doing that you can see, and I was like it's pretty cool. And then yeah, Night Care, dude, I feel like everyone keeps talking about Glogan all the time, and I understand it, but like it's just so funny that like like no one's actually looking at like all the people on the team. Like there's LZ, there's like Taliant, but like it's just Glogan every time, dude. That's Glogan's team. Like why did they name it anything else besides just Glogan's? But like yeah, I like it's really surprised, like the fact that they're like it seems I've never really talked with them, but like it seems like they have chemistry with each other, and that like I noticed that like you wouldn't expect them to like do like looking at those people, like I know them, like some of them think one way, some of them think a different way. Like how are they like on the same team, but like they're making it happen. Like they must have some sort of chemistry behind that. So I'll certainly give them that, and it's really paying out for them as well. So
yeah.
I know Taliant and LZ have played together for a long time now, close to 8 months, I think. So the team synergy is definitely there, and Night Care that totally sounds like an Italian name, to be honest. So anyway, that'll close out the talk of NA Open Division. So I want to move it and talk to you, Troy, and get to know you a little bit more. I want to highlight you today. So I want to know two main things. In terms of gaming or just life, like I want to know a little bit about you. Give me your background, And then when it comes to competing, whether it's in game or another sport or something like that, where do you draw inspiration from?
Okay, yeah, like the main thing that you know I really draw from, like when I'm playing, like I don't know, uh, in scrims and in Hero League, is that like you know, try to black out, or not really black out. I don't know. I just sort of naturally think about like, hey, I'm not here to like win the game. Like I'm just here to play well, and like if I have played well in the game and then we lose, like no big deal, you know. And that whole philosophy that I have, I feel like really just enables me to like really want to play and really have a drive that like other people get like it seems like people are frustrated sometimes like playing this game for they're like I've played this game for like 6 hours a day, for 5 days a week for all these days, like now I'm frustrated. I'm sitting here like, dude, like you know you can enjoy this, but like I
Mhm.
feel like the reason why they don't enjoy it is because like they're so aimed at winning the game instead of just playing well, so that's a little bit about me. I guess I just really want at the end of the game to just be like, wow, like Troy made that play right there, and like even though they lost, like that was amazing. Sort of like what you did with Alex before with this Junkrat play, like even though we lost that game, like that was amazing. The fact that
Yeah,
he defended that keep even against all odds, like yeah.
yeah, that was pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
top
Um,
top my top play of the week last week, definitely.
yeah. So, are there any players in the scene that you look up to and try and model your play after?
Um, well, I will say this, like a while back, like Roll20 did, or they're not Roll20 anymore, but when they were, they put on Reddit like a post where like anyone could like ask them questions about their team, or whatever, and their manager was talking about how the team, he was just really enjoyed like going into the chat channel of the team and just hearing them like geek out for hours over strategy and stuff, and like being able to communicate like that, like I think that's so cool, just like being able to like go through thought experiments and like go through like the reason why something works instead of just saying it works and then it does and then you move forward, like I really love um yeah, just that. But I also find it really interesting how not all the teams draft together, like Team Freedom apparently, it's just hearsay, but apparently Team Freedom, like all five of their members uh go and input in the draft. They're like, hey, like I really like this hero here because I'm gonna like do this during the game, or they all like give input during the draft, and then like obviously there's a final decider, but like everyone gives input, and then on other teams, just like one or two people decides the draft, and so I think that's interesting, and I was trying to identify like why exactly it happens,
Hmm.
but I mean,
That
yeah, I'm
that's pretty funny because I have heard that and that from someone else too. That Team Freedom does all talk at once, and I've actually been bouncing around a lot of different team scrims and their comms. And you're right, it is kind of weird how some teams everyone talks, and some teams it's like one guy chooses it, or it's two guys talking back and forth, and it comes down to whichever one of them makes the better argument in 60 seconds to pick that pick.
yeah.
All right. So,
But
go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
that is to say though that like I wish I had more, or I really wish I had like a moment where I could like be in their shoes and like see what they're doing. Like I have so many questions about like what they focus on the most. Like when you're diving for a kill, do you focus on like do you prioritize dodging abilities over like diving the kill anyway? I'm pretty sure they do if you watch them play, but like it's just there's so many technical questions I'd like to ask, and you're asking me like who I look up to, but it's just like I don't know because I can't talk to them, so I can't know what they're all about, except for like hearsay. All I get is like hearsay from other people. But yeah, it'd be really nice to like go to BlizzCon and talk to these guys sometime. Like that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely recommend it.
So if you're watching this, Team Freedom, Team 12, Troy wants to talk trade with you. That's it.
Hell yeah.
And to be honest, that's one of the best things, is just to talk about something that you love with other people that share that same care and interest in something. So,
and I can't speak for him personally, but I know I do have somewhat of a relationship with Collusion. He typically will field my questions on the fly if I ask him. So I mean, he definitely loves to talk about the game.
Maybe you could just shoot him a message and be like, "Hey, give me your opinions on this." You could do that. I know a lot of players will just, if they have a question, as long as it's not like giving something away, like a secret or something,
yeah,
they'll be more than willing to just talk with you. So anyway, Troy, thank you so much for being on with us this week. It's been an absolute pleasure. I always love having you on and talking with you. So let's move on to shout outs. What do you have for us this week?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'd like to shout out to Katie. Actually I didn't mention this earlier, but like she just really helps with like everything. Like we get the best scrim partners, we get like the best, the tryouts are so fluid. Like we're not doing tryouts anymore, but like it's so nice having her around. Like she works so hard for us, and like somebody's, well, I don't know, she like literally, the amount of time that she like sinks into like helping us is really cool. Like I'm amazed by it every day. It's pretty awesome. But I'm gonna shout out to my team. We scrimmed today, obviously, but yeah, it was really fun playing with you guys today, and yeah, I'd like to shout out to my family as well. They last time I actually like linked my stream to everyone so they could watch, and like every single person I sent it to actually logged on and watched. I was like, yeah, that's pretty fun.
Nice. I'm happy to hear Katie is still in the shoutouts. Every single time you guys have been on, you shout her out, and that's good. She must be like the best manager in NA.
Oh yeah.
Or probably the world, to be honest. So,
damn.
Dunk, let's move on to you. What shoutouts you got this week?
Shout out to my girlfriend as normal. Shout out to my mother as normal. Shout out to Troy for coming on. Appreciate it, bud. We love having you. What you told me last time I casted you at HeroesHype still sticks with me. Every time you play the game, try to be the carry, even if you're tanking, you're sporting, DPSing. Everyone's a carry. Make the game happen. Shout out to my boys. And I'm going to give a shout out to Saryu in chat because this guy is just going at it. Living it up.
Oh boy, Saryu. Gotta love him. Anyway, for me, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Argyhots, Twitch, same thing. HeroesHype on Twitter, and our Discord server, so you can get all the latest Open Division news and announcements, like maybe what server we're on next week, or what patch we'll be on, or any banned heroes or something like that. All the very important information that you need to know to compete. And if you have a team that wants to compete in the Open Division, make sure to go to HeroesHype.com, and you can sign up your team there, both Europe and North America. And if you have any questions, hop into our Discord, discord.gg/HeroesHype, and any of our staff or mods or admins can help. So
yeah, actually, I'm gonna extend my shout out a little bit. I want to ask anybody that's been giving us information, on the down low or messaging us. We appreciate the help. Every little bit of info we get to help us have more knowledge about your team, your side of the scene. It's really appreciated because we want to make this show as factual and helpful as possible for you guys. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, 100% agree. If you have any feedback for us, either shoot Dunk or me or DM on Twitter, or Discord or whatever. Just we want as much information as we can get because we want to make the show the best it can be. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week.